Hey there, friend. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you around our homestead and sharing the types of food sources that we have been working on putting in here because growing our food is very important to us. No, we do not grow all our own food, and maybe someday, but for now, we just really try to grow a lot that we can just eat fresh, as well as preserve a lot of it to enjoy throughout the winter. Cuts down on the grocery bill. We know we have a better food supply with canned goods, and it's just fun. It's just fun to be able to grow our own food and know where it came from, and you appreciate it more. So, through the years of being here, we have had a vegetable garden, an annual garden, which I am standing in front of right now, and that's necessary and a big part of what we grow. We've also been working on putting more perennial food sources in. So I will also be sharing and showing our perennial food garden and our orchard and some more tips on where we've gotten them and things like that. So let's just get to it. Well, I'm just going to show you the worst part of the garden first. So this, well, it may not be the prettiest part, and I wish there weren't so many weeds out because obviously when they seed out, you deal with more weeds. But right now, that is what we are dealing with because with two little kids and what feels like something every weekend, this is just what's happened. So regardless of that, here are onions. We had a storm come through that knocked a lot of them over, which means we need to pick them and get them drying so we can store them. But this year we actually have some decent sized onions. And so it was a little bummer that the storm came through and knocked a bunch of them over because we thought we were going to get some really good sized ones. But that's okay because we've had some smaller ones in the previous years. But that is what is here. And we really struggle with bindweed in this area, this part of the garden, which is probably the worst for onions because it climbs up it and knocks them over. But we've weeded it like 5 times to get the bindweed out, and it is just relentless. But over here we had cabbage. I picked all those. We have some cauliflower. Some has been picked. I need to pick the rest of it. And we have a few broccoli plants. We planted a lot of broccoli rabe, not knowing that it's not even close to the same thing as broccoli. So we learned that. And then this is Brussels sprouts. So this is where we had all the rapini, and we took it out and it was empty for a lot of the summer. And now recently we planted some peas for a fall garden. I had laid grass down to help with weed protection, and then the wind came through and kind of blew it onto the rows. So hopefully they will start popping up. I do see one here, but hopefully they will start coming up soon so I don't have to worry about replanting. And then here we have all of our sweet potato plants, which look amazing. So I really hope they look just as good, if not better, underground as they do above ground. But they've been doing really good. I know you guys have seen a lot in a lot of our videos how much we enjoy having sweet potatoes as a side and stuff. So hopefully we'll get those in so we can store them throughout some of the winter. And we also have some parsnips here, I believe my husband planted. And we did have some salad mix as well, but that doesn't stay very good when it's that hot in the summer. So we also had a storm come through last night, and it's kind of gray and it's beautiful outside right now, but I can feel a few sprinkles starting, so hopefully we can make it through this without getting rained out. But we have a lovely volunteer sunflower and one over here too, which is kind of fun. I just let them grow if they're not in a problem spot. So these are supposed to be the giant ones, and they can grow really tall, but the volunteer ones don't ever seem to do that. And then we have 2 rows of green beans and a little one. Some of them are dragon beans, which is an heirloom variety, and we saved the seeds from them. They're kind of purple striped on the outside, so they're really cool, but when you do cook them, they turn to green. So we have those. We do like to can a lot of green beans. And here we have 2 rows of Yukon Gold potatoes. This last year was the first year we did not make it through the winter with the potato stash that we had. My mother-in-law does grow potatoes too that we normally, she grows a little extra too for us. But this year we tried to grow a little bit more here. I would have actually liked to grow some more potatoes than what we did, but I could not find any more seed potatoes when I was looking for them. So that's okay. Now I am standing here in our watermelon patch. So there's 3 watermelon plants here, and they have really taken off and covered the whole spot, which is wonderful. And it's fun. Hopefully they will produce some good watermelons. I had a little harder time here in this garden growing really good watermelons. Growing up, my dad always grew a ton of watermelons, like 100, 200 plants every summer, just for us. We would eat them all the time, fresh out of the garden, but also just friends and neighbors loves to share with them. Before me, they did used to sell at farmers markets, but that was a long time ago. So mostly they just grow as they're growing this year too, over 100 of them just to share with people. But I'm hoping that we'll at least end up with a few watermelons that we can enjoy. And right here, it's a little hard to see, but I have a little eucalyptus plant it's a eucalyptus tree we started from seed, and I just put it in here finally. And I'm just going to cut it to make flower arrangements to go with my other cut flowers. And here I also started some little basil plants. So some of these things got in really late, but they'll still get tall enough to at least be able to use some before the end of the year. But that's just kind of how it was this year. Okay, well, I'm here in our tomato space, and we were hoping to do a lot of tomato canning preserving this summer, because I kind of like to take every other year off for tomatoes just because it's a lot of work. But we shall see. We started a bunch of heirloom tomatoes from seed, and you can see they look kind of rough and wilted. And then we have these over here, these 2 plants that look really good. So these are Romas, and the rest are heirloom varieties. And as much as we love the flavor from the heirloom varieties, they're not very disease resistant, and they often look like this, which is a real bummer. And hopefully we still get some tomatoes out of them. But anyways, we have some Romas, a couple Romas, and then we have Amish paste, which is a paste type tomato like a Roma, but heirloom. And then we have some black from Tula slicing tomatoes, which are, they kind of like black tomatoes, purplish tomatoes, and they are so delicious. We will see how they do, but hopefully we'll get some tomatoes out of it this year, and maybe we'll get a good amount, but we shall see. We have over 20 tomato plants, but I don't know if it's going to turn out to be as much of a tomato year as we were hoping. So I think in the future we'll probably plant a lot more newer hybrids, just because it's a lot of work for them to just turn out like this. But you can see we do the Florida weave, which for keeping them upright, and honestly we need to do it again. But it's just using twine to weave in between the tomato plants with the stakes, but they need to be done once or twice more. Despite our tomatoes not looking quite as good this year, our sweet corn is looking wonderful. It is pollinating, as you can see, and hopefully we'll get a lot out of it this year. We mostly freeze all of it. We take it off the cob, freeze it in bags, and that is one thing we're pretty good at, storing enough for the winter, which we love to have. And right in front here are some peppers, some bell peppers, and some jalapenos. I will say, mosquitoes. I will say that peppers are probably going to be something we need to either starting from seeds ourselves, or going to a different place, because buying starts from somewhere else, because they all of their peppers were at least 2 foot tall, maybe even closer to 2.5, 3 foot. And they just don't seem to do very well once they get in the ground because they're just so root bound. So we'll see what we do next year for that. Ah, that's a pretty good carrot, huh? You might have to go wash that off.
Mom.
How about you go wash that off in the hose or on the hydrant?
Mom, can I even have a carrot?
No, she can't have a carrot, sorry. So here are all of our carrots. Our carrots came up so wonderfully this year, which is really exciting because sometimes they can be tricky to get to germinate. But this one row could probably be thinned a little bit better, but it probably won't get, we probably won't get to it. But we are, I think, probably going to start some more carrots because I love canning carrots. And we're also, if we have enough, we might try just storing them in moist wood shavings or something like that to see if they would last through the winter. Hi, Goober. So this year I was hoping to grow a lot of flowers. It's not quite going quite as well as I was hoping, but we did start some late. Some marigolds, and I did do some bells of Ireland, but I'm not really seeing a whole lot of those. And then another kind of marigold. So hopefully at least in the fall we'll have some pretty flowers to have in the garden. And then the last bit of the garden is just an open space for now, and we will be very soon planting some beets and more of those carrots to have a fall harvest of. But that kind of sums up our vegetable garden. We have more open space this year because we were very worried about not having enough space. So we kind of condensed things and planted fewer fun plants and ended up having a little bit of extra room. So we'll make sure to fill it a little bit better this next year.
Good.
How was your carrot?
Good.
Good? Good. And then new to the garden this year is this little sandbox that the girls can play in. So we can actually get a little bit more weeding done before they try to run off and play somewhere else. Do you like your sandbox? Yeah. Good. So we are done with the vegetable garden. So let's go to the next thing. So I am out here now in our perennial garden, which we put this in last spring. So it's just over a year old. And we just wanted a space to be able to plant more perennial foods. And we had a little strawberry patch over there, just a little tiny squares. And so we moved those, which I will show you. And then over here we have some rhubarb plants, which were here to begin with. And then these trees are actually, go wash them off.
Hold on.
Okay, thanks. And then these trees are actually apricot trees, which have been here for a very long time. My husband's grandpa grew up here, and they grew up eating the apricots off of those trees, which is really cool. And we didn't even realize they were until last year or the year before they actually it actually grew apricots, which is the first time in like quite a long time, I think, that they had any on them, but not this year.
I can't find any more.
Well, that's probably because you ate them all. So this bed right here are my perennial flowers, and they look a little rougher this year than they have earlier this summer, but weeds have gotten, I don't know if you've noticed a theme, but weeds can be a real problem. We probably should have put some landscaping paper down, but yes. But we have peony plants and some lupines, which we really love those flowers. We have a purple one and a pink one. And then we had lavender, but they didn't survive the winter. And I've been told that they really like a drier, well-drained soil. And I'm thinking maybe it gets watered too much out here for them. But in the spring, we have daffodils in the corner, which are really pretty. But of course, they're not here now. Now, this is one garden bed here that is actually not perennial. I have left it open for now just to plant cut flowers in it. while we decide kind of what we wanted to do with it, what we wanted to put in it. And we might also just leave it here to plant cut flowers until I find another place. But these are all my dahlias, and they probably need staked, but I'm not sure. I'm not an expert cut flower grower, but we do have some beautiful blooms coming on. I have a few in the house already. So I actually bought some nicer dahlia tubers. I always just get the ones from like Menards, and they're fine, but they're always really small. And so I did buy some from, I think, Longfield Garden, and they've been really beautiful so far. And at the end of the bed right now is just weeds. We had started some snapdragons from seed, and then once we transplanted them here, our dog came and dug them up. So that was a bummer, but I am excited to have these. So wildflowers are not necessarily a food source. I personally love having them around and being able to bring them into the house. And it's just a simple thing that brings a lot of joy. So this bed is our everbearing strawberries, and we just transplanted what we have. So we have not gotten yet to where it's completely filled it out, which will be wonderful when it does, because it's not enough strawberries for everyone, or even these two. Now, one thing I'll say is what we did is we took 2x4s, we put them in to kind of act as a border. What we were hoping was we wouldn't have to weed it around them, and they would still act as a border for weeds. And instead of doing that, we have still had to stop picking the green. No, it's not ready. And instead of acting as a weed barrier, we've still had to weed eat, and the weeds just climb right over top of them. So we might actually change these to raised beds in the future, which will be a bummer to lose a little bit. We'll have to try transplant and hope it goes well, but I think it will be worth it in the long run. And this one over here is our June-bearing strawberry patch. So they are done for the year. So they're kind of hard to see, but here and here and here, and on that side too, we have 6 blueberry bushes here, and then we had another 6 blueberry bushes to match that aisle of the beds. 2 of those did not make it. We put these 6 in last year, and then another 6 this spring. So we will have to replace some of those, but blueberries are something that don't naturally grow well in our soil. It needs to be a lot lower of a pH, I think. So we have had to add elemental sulfur, and ideally you would do that before you ever plant them in the ground, but we didn't want to do that, so we're just trying to kind of keep them alive and adjust the soil as we go. We will see how that treats us once we start getting blueberries, if we ever start getting them. But for now, they're looking okay. They're just kind of not really growing that big. So we did recently fertilize them, but we're going to keep trying to adjust it so that hopefully we get a lot of blueberries one day. So over here is our asparagus patch. We actually got a few asparagus this year. We planted the crowns last year, but it'll probably be a little while before we get a lot of them, and we need to fill in some of the gaps too as well. But that is what that bed is. And then this is our last bed, and over here we have perennial herbs. So sage, rosemary, oregano, echinacea. And my plan is to fill this eventually with more herbs that we would like to do if I ever figure out more about like medicinal herbs and stuff like that. But for now, that is what I have in here, and the rest I did cut flowers. So these are all gladiolus flowers. So I will at least hopefully get some more flowers as well to bring inside. So this is our perennial garden, and it's kind of been a labor of love, and we hope to improve it. And maybe next summer I'll have some more updates as far as switching it to raised beds and maybe adding a flower arch and things like that. But for now, this is where we are at. So the last thing I want to show you is my passion project, which is our home orchard. So we put this in 2 years ago. This will be the third summer that most of the trees have been in here. So you can see 1, 2, 3 apple trees. They're all different varieties. And we did have one more that was a crab apple, but it did not survive, and we haven't been able to replace it yet. But they all started like this tall, and you can see they've grown a ton, so that's really exciting. So hopefully in a few years we will have lots of apples. One year we did borrow a cider press, and we had access to a bunch of apples from someone else, and we crushed all the apples and made apple cider, which was so delicious, and it was just such a fun time. And we were able to can that too, actually, and so we've still been able to enjoy it. But those are our apple trees, and behind our apple trees are these grapevines. We just put these in this spring, and we still have to put the trellis up, but they have been doing pretty good, so I'm really excited. We have a variety of pink, red, and purple ones. Some that are better for juice, and I think one that's supposed to be a little bit better for eating. So that's exciting. This one's is really growing tall, so we do need to get the trellis in. But that is a new addition. So here we have these 3 are all peach trees. We had 2 here that we had to replace this spring. So this one is the same variety as that one way at the end that has grown a lot and survived the winters. And then this is a new kind. So peaches are a little more challenging to grow here in Nebraska compared to like apples, but I am hopeful that we'll at least get some. So you can see how much they do grow every year, which is exciting. It's sometimes when you're putting in perennial foods, it feels like it's going to be forever before you get anything, which we haven't gotten much for food, but it is fun to see actually how much it grows, and I know we will be just drowning in fresh fruit before we know it, which will be really good because when you have kids, you have to buy a lot. We buy quite a bit of fruit, so it will be fun to have more of our own supply. And then back there, we did put raspberries in last spring, but a lot of them didn't come out of dormancy, and they just didn't do very good. But they're supposed to do really well here in Nebraska, so we'll probably try again next year with raspberries because we have been loving those in our smoothies. And then the last things in our orchard are our cherry bushes, or dwarf cherry trees. They are all a different kind, but they're all pie cherries, so they're quite sour. We did get a couple last year, but not any this year. But they've really grown, so hopefully one time we'll be able to can a lot of pie filling and have it for things like that. You can't really grow sweet cherries here in Nebraska, which is a big bummer because I love cherries, but this will be fun to have for baked goods. So that is all of the perennial foods and our vegetable garden, just everything that we have been growing and trying to put in and build over the last 5 years or so. And it's a process. It takes money, investments, which they are definitely investments, but you sometimes have to do it a little slower than you'd like, and it takes a lot of work and time to put everything in, because one thing about this orchard is this was actually all just the trees and brush, and so all of this backyard was actually more just wooded area, and we had an excavator come in and tear that down so we could put fruit trees in and put grass seed and have just a bigger backyard, which what used to be not my least favorite place here is now become my favorite place. So if you are in the beginning stages of trying to grow your own food and put perennials in, just know that it takes a lot of time. So give yourself grace as you're doing that and planning that, but also put as much as you can in because it does take a few years. So my goal is always to we push it a little bit as far as how much we can get put in, but I know that having an extra year sometimes is worth it worth the stress of getting it in. But if you are a seasoned fruit tree grower or anything that I've shown and have any tips that you'd love to share for people who are starting out, please put those in the comments. But otherwise, I hope you found a little inspiration on things that you might want to add to your homestead someday, or maybe you already have it, but just maybe give you some ideas of food sources you can bring to your family. So if you have any questions about anything that I've showed today, please ask them in the comments, and I'd love to help as much as I can. But until next time, bye friends.